Welcome, everyone. Beautiful earthlings. Welcome to the show. This is Aquarian Anarchy. You know the deal. I am Chad. You see Marcus and Nico at the bottom. And we have our special guest tonight. Ken Theroux is with us, one of our good friends from the Mogul Summit. We've got some really interesting stuff to dig into tonight. We're going to talk about history. We're going to talk about what they have done to history. And we are going to talk about where we go from here and like how some of this stuff that we're going through right now has kind of been telegraphed to us in the years leading up to this. And before we get into that and before we bring Ken on, I want to remind everybody, like, share, and subscribe if you aren't already. Remember, 2 shares to speed the spread. We want to get this podcast everywhere that we can and get it into the hands of as many folks who need to be awakened to the beauty that is Aquarian Anarchy as we can. But also go to our Patreon and sign up there at the $5 level. You get to join our Anarch chat where we have all sorts of different I don't want to say woke conversations, but some shit that you don't get in your, it's not your Facebook chat that you're in. It's way deeper than that. So great group of people there. And also go to the store and get some merchandise. I'm not wearing a shirt from the store, but you see the banner that Marcus has and Nico has, and Marcus is wearing a shirt from the store. So go to the Teespring store. And yeah, there you go, Ken. All right. So without further ado, let's bring the man on. Ken, unmute your mic if you haven't already. I'll unmute it for you. There you go. All right. Welcome, brother.
Hey, how's it going? Not bad.
Yeah. This is the first time that Marcus and I and Nico have actually seen your face live on the Mogul Summit. You always just had this little picture up to obscure who your true identity. And we are glad.
I was growing out the hair. The hair, so I couldn't show you guys until it all got down to my neck.
Oh, so, there you go. I see. All right.
I don't know how long it's going to go at this point.
Yeah, I know the struggle.
Yeah. For me, I'm struggling myself with some hair. I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to just go all kinds of mountain manish or if I'm going to get it cut.
That would be sick, especially with a beard. I've been shaving it down just to keep the mustache lately, but get the big beard, have the hair down to here.
Yeah.
Especially if we're going through an apocalypse right now. That'd be a pretty good idea.
I'd look the part.
we need a Gandalf. You feel me?
Be as intimidating as possible. What's up? I see we got Ebony in the chat. We got Jonesy in the chat as well.
What's up?
Welcome to those folks. And I see I can't read Mark B. Weed Extreme. This dude has been in the chat a few times, and I don't know. I'm not sure if I dig it all or not, but there's been some good stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway,
mixed.
And Maiden Liberty just jumped in the chat as well. So anyway, welcome to everyone. Welcome to all the people out there viewing. So if you are curious as to what we are going to get into, we met Ken on the Mogul Summit, which is it's a little group where we get together and talk about growing, small businesses, startups, and things like that with Hotep Jesus on Saturday mornings. And Ken is one of the people who was showing up there on a regular basis. And we always get into these different conversations either at the beginning or towards the end. And we get into all kinds of different things about history, about the economy, about money, about libertarianism, anarchy, all these different things. And it gets into some really interesting and fun conversations. And Ken, I guess you had started some work, and then you had it's like you had kind of paused it a little bit, and then this kind of inspired you to bring it back. So talk a little bit about that, about the damned history and kind of where that started, what happened in between, and like where it's going now.
I originally started it around October, November 2019.
Yeah.
And then I did, but prior to that, I was just making clips for Dave Smith's Part of the Problem.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing that from July to September-ish. And then I was just doing it so much, I was like, I could clip some stuff up and put it on a show. Because he would talk about a lot of historical references. I'm like, oh, this would be really cool if somebody actually put this into a show and did everything like that, which other shows do. I know like No Agenda and some other shows, they do a really good job of just adding clips that are relevant to whatever's going on.
Right. The
really
actual speeches or
yeah.
news clips or whatever from historical events. Yeah.
Yeah. Just straight from the source. And so that's what I was doing with his stuff. And I was like, I could do a podcast doing that. And I just manically like put out 7 episodes in like 2 weeks.
Right.
And
you were talking about it too. You're like, I'm gonna keep trying to do this every day. And then it was just like, it's like it swallowed you up.
Yeah. Well, I was in the middle of moving.
Yeah.
And then right around that period, I was actually working on something for Iran because I was going to cover what was going on in Iran. And then I remember hearing, this is No Agenda, the Adam Curry podcast, hearing him and John C. Dvorak say that, so what's going to happen now? This is after they killed Soleimani. What is going to happen now is that Iran's just going to shoot something over, not kill anybody, just to say they did something. And this is when everyone's like, World War III, everything's going to hell, we're all going to die.
Right.
And they're like, no, they're just going to shoot something off. No one's going to do anything. And then people are going to forget about it by February. And that's exactly step by step what happened.
Did they ever forget about it by February? Have we even thought of anything else but what's been going on since February?
Right.
Yeah.
2020. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
As soon as I heard them go through that, and I've heard them do that and other stuff, but it was because it was a topic I was actually researching.
Right.
And I'm like, well, these two guys already know this, and I have no idea. I need to shut up and listen and study and not talk about stuff, especially like if you're doing a current event show or something like that or something like this. Ignorance is fine, but if you're actually talking about historical events,
right,
you need to be pretty damn accurate, in my opinion.
Sure.
Or you're going to mislead a lot of people, especially when it's dealing with warfare and everything else. So,
well, you're either going to mislead people, or you're going to be easily taken down and made irrelevant.
That's true.
Facts. Right. I mean, they do that with our history already.
This is true.
Let's talk a little bit about that. So what, we hear that if you don't learn from history, you're damned to repeat it. But man, they have a funny way of teaching us the history that they want us to learn.
Live action, anybody?
Yeah. That's another thing I've learned too. And I've learned to not go too deep, because at a certain point with certain points of history, like if you go 400 or 500 years ago, it's really, really hard to know what really happened.
Right.
You just kind of have to stop at a certain point and then just get the specifics of what that interpretation is, because you're only going to be able to get so much, and then you're going to have so much other misinformation. But if you actually look at the patterns over like the past 2,000 years, that's actually more of what I'm worried about. I mean, the narrative matters, especially if you're like doing a podcast about it, because people like a good story.
Right.
So as long as you hit these key topic points, that's kind of where I'm at now, because I dove so deep into it over the last year. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to be able to like even convince people some of the stuff I do believe now. So, or some stuff I've been tinkering with, and I'm just like, hey, no, maybe. So
would you be interested in to dive into that info?
That's good. That's actually good. I mean, I did dabble in some Tartaria stuff. I don't know if you guys have dabbled in any of that.
I don't even know what that is.
No, please.
Basically,
teach.
the last since like 1500, everything's fake, or everything prior to 1500 is a lie. So like the Roman history didn't happen, Greece didn't happen. That was a totally different civilization, and everything's just been whitewashed by people. So
yeah, and I think a lot of people want to laugh at that and want to say that that's not possible, but it absolutely is. History is one of the things that I get into as well. And one of the things that I figured out really early when I started doing some work for Adam Kokesh was that the things we don't know about, like just talking about the Revolutionary War in the United States, that stuff is huge. One of my first articles that I did for Adam was on a guy named Thomas Young, who absolutely was essential to the founding of this country, but nobody knows who he is.
Yeah. I've heard the name and I still barely know who that is.
Yeah.
So
it's a very long story, but he basically, there isn't anything in the revolution he didn't touch. To make it kind of drive the point home, when Jefferson was writing the Declaration of Independence, he had basically two sets of works beside him. One of them was Locke's on government, and the rest of it was the works of Thomas Young.
I'm gonna actually write all this down.
Yeah, but I can send you the article after we're done.
Okay. But real quick with a telling everyone to ignore the State of the Union and watch this instead.
Right, for sure.
That would be probably wise. I don't know if I've heard you say the name Thomas Young before tuning in here. I'm sure maybe I have. So maybe that was the first person I've heard it from. But
yeah. He like I said, he did about everything. He was friends with Thomas Paine. He was friends with he was, when everybody else was still like a teenager doing teenager stuff, he was actively fighting for liberty. And wound up dying for liberty in the Revolutionary War. Really interesting guy. Like I said, I'll send you the link to the article I wrote. But what I'm saying is that the things that are messed up in the 200 or so years since 1776, I can't imagine the stuff that's messed up from Sumeria. So what in particular would you call to that you have seen enough proof that you do believe in that would shock people that you know?
Oof.
Not to put you on a
Okay, wait. Let's narrow it. What's your favorite?
Yeah, there you go.
I like that one just because there's I forgot the guy's name. I'd have to look it up. It's a Russian guy. It's like a Russian scientist or something like that. He compiled, I think it was like at least 7, maybe 10 books that are like this big, where he's basically deconstructing how all of the history from that period, how there's all just a specific pattern that everything keeps following. And so he's like connecting certain history from, say, Rome to something that was happening in modern day Russia, and how this is the exact same story and they keep recycling it. But I haven't dove that much into it. I just like the concept. So
it makes sense.
So yeah, for sure. And that's why I was, Nico, you and I are in the same mind. How much of it is just cycles of what people do? You know, looking at, like, for instance, because I've got a background in spirituality, looking at the Mayan calendar, and people were all freaked out in 2012. Well, the Mayan calendar it's a circle. The circles don't end, and it just works in cycles because it's actually circles within circles, and certain patterns repeat themselves throughout time.
Yes.
And Jung talked about also archetypes. How much do you think is that, and how much do you think is actually manipulated, or maybe they work in tandem?
I think there are people who know how to manipulate it, but I think some patterns are going to occur. They just know how to position themselves to take advantage of those specific patterns is more of what I would think. Because it would be so hard to manipulate every single layer. I know there are people who would like to, and that's why they want us all, digitally connected and passported and everything else. But I do think there are limits to what they can do, but they do know where things are going because they help drive that culture in a specific direction, and then they know how to capitalize on it. And then you have useful idiots who help them do it, but then you have some people who are just like, okay, I'm just going to get rich from doing this, and you guys won't kill me. Okay.
Right. Well, it's similar to like a hunter and prey. You're gonna you don't have 100% guarantee that if you smoke out that fox in that hole, that he's going to come out in this end because you don't know necessarily where all of the different little burrows
Mhm.
might be coming out. But you feel pretty confident that when you start putting that smoke in there, wherever the smoke is coming out,
Mhm.
if you can block off the
Yeah.
areas where you know what I mean, like you can put yourself in a position to be
Yeah.
in the right place at the right time, and it's funny because I was actually having a conversation. One of our Joncourt writers, Alchemy, we were talking about this, and she was talking about like gematria and how like some of the stuff that she's like, look, I don't think that there are these people who are actually like making this stuff happen this way or whatever. It's just that they recognize the patterns in these numbers and everything, and they may do certain things specifically in those different times, dates, and everything.
I've had that thought.
Because they know that there's a certain energy related to that, but they're not like creating the energy that is, you know what I'm saying? Like it's more like, okay,
They capitalize off of it.
if I stand, like if you were watching the wheel, or not the Wheel of Fortune, or the Wheel of Fortune, or the like the Price is Right wheel, like you can watch it go around once, and based on how fast it's moving and where it, what just passed the needle, you can kind of predict where it's going to land on that final rotation, right? So if you just if you just say, all right, I'm going to put my money on, like watching a roulette wheel, if you put your money in late enough,
Watching patterns.
that's why they stop bets at a certain point, because they're like, no, you can see too much now, so no more bets.
See, for me too, knowing that a lot of these people that we're talking about that do interfere, my belief is that they're doing black magic or evil intentioned
left hand.
Right. Well, I don't like those terms because I would be
that's
considered
Marcus is on the left path, so he's like, oh
Right.
man, leave me alone.
Right.
I'm a good guy.
Right. But a lot of the times those people, like, because I have a background in magic, I learned patterns. Like for instance, the two big magical formulas that you pay attention to if you're a magician are the Tetragrammaton formula, which is the YHVH formula, which is in essence the four elements: earth, air, fire, and water. It can be expanded into two different formulas, but now we're getting into the weeds. But and there's the IAO formula, or which is basically birth, life, death, and those two patterns. And you can combine them and make an abracadabra formula or a Yeshua or Jesus formula. But those formulas, I've seen it in my life. It does. If every day you repeat those two formulas all the time. And so if you take that and extrapolate from that into other formulas, it's not a very long journey to get to that you can map out. It's entirely what Theroux is based on, is the taking those symbols, putting them in a workable understanding and learning from it. So it makes an awful lot of sense to me that the people that are in power and the people that are writing history books to try to change history instead of to try to preserve it would use those formulas to do so. So that makes sense to me.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And you went deep on that one. That's nice.
Yeah. Well, this is what we do. There's
a lot of interference.
I'm not that good
like
at being
Marcus
that deep.
said. There's a lot of interference that runs behind the background. Like I just found out, apparently, baseball is like, even though it's a diamond, it's like a symbol, and like with that symbol, they're like playing or adding to the energy that it's also created. So it's there's a lot of things that are in tuned to like everyday life that we don't see privy unless you know the patterns, such as Marcus or other people.
Yeah, I saw something about baseball too. We might have seen that. Was it recently? Because there's something.
Yeah,
going
it was
around,
recent.
And then I started reading into it. I can't even speak anything that I learned. I just kind of learned some new things. If I tried to now, I'd like, the positioning and the players and pitcher, then first base. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, and now you have the shift. So like it's all they messed everything up. That's why everything got ruined last year, because everybody was shifting so much. They have like the shortstop playing between second and first. It's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? This is terrible.
Yeah, I could do a whole 3 hours on baseball if you want.
I just hate what they've done. They've made it, and these people can't hit. There's like the third baseman is playing like inside of like between where shortstop would normally play and second base, and a left-handed hitter still can't like punch the ball the other way through a 60-foot gap. Like, Jesus, man, come on! All you got to do is dribble it up the third baseline, and you're on base every time.
It's insane because because when I played in college, we had guys like that who they just had specialties. Like they could only do one thing. And I was like, oh, they were a left-handed hitter who could hit home runs. They couldn't do anything else. And it's like, but then other guys, they practice so many different things. But this guy, he was a first baseman / DH. And all he could do was hit home runs.
He's
batted like
basically
250,
a softball,
300.
Basically a softball, beer league softball player playing college baseball because he was big and strong.
And he would only play if we had a right-handed pitcher we were facing because he couldn't hit lefties. And that was it. That was his whole position, his role in the team.
And if you could throw a good back foot slider, you could still wipe that guy out.
Oh yeah,
because he can't hit that ball bearing in on his ankles.
He's like 6'4", 6'3", or something like that. Yeah. It's a behemoth.
So
sorry, everybody. We talked about sports.
Well, baseball. Most people hate baseball.
Right.
Well, the thing is, you're right. You can find patterns in anything, and it makes sense to me. I mean, I have not looked at any of the symbolism behind baseball. I don't know, but just looking at the diamond itself and the symbolisms in it, I could easily make a Masonic symbol like in 2 seconds.
Yeah,
and it really. Yeah. So certainly that's going to be there. And speaking of Masons, have you seen in your study with history and kind of altering history and those kinds of things, have you seen the Masons come up a lot in that? I'm just curious.
I have. And I mean, the Masons for sure, they pop up a lot, but I just don't. At first, I was just like, oh, it's all the Masons. They're just so evil and bad and everything else. And then the more I keep diving into it, I'm like, well, not most of these people aren't. Like, I have a grandpa. He was a Mason when he was still alive. He wasn't like Illuminati.
Yeah.
New World Order. Yeah. Like, he was just he's a guy who farmed and he had a farm.
I've got an uncle who's in the Masons. And same thing. It's like, but then I don't know. You read Bill Cooper and he's like, well, yeah, that's because when they told him to piss on the crucifix, he was like, I'm not going to do that. And they're like,
not good with
that's great. You pass the test, and then you don't advance.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, and just to be clear, I talking about the Illuminati. I'm in the fraternal order called the Ordo Templi Orientis, and so
he just said he Illuminati, everybody.
Right. I'm naughty. I don't know about Illuma, but I'm telling you, if we get a country, if somehow the OTO, they're right, and I didn't go far enough in the OTO, and we get a country, okay. Move to my country because it's going to be a whole lot cooler there than anywhere else.
So, Ken,
likely,
what is the biggest cycle that you see repeating? Like, what's the most
great question?
It's one of those things. Yeah, it's like I'm freezing on the camera because I'm trying to think now.
No worries.
Just relax, man. We're just chilling.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to think about that. But the biggest cycle, I mean, this seems like there's 4 that usually keep occurring.
What are those?
And I mean, specific names, I can't even think about it. But you'd have the period of like materialism, and then you'd have basically an age of magic, and then you'd have an in-between period after you have the age of magic. And I think we're actually going from an age where it was like an enlightenment period where it was a little bit of magic mixed with materialism that went further and further in materialism. And then now we're going back into a form of magic with all the technology and just more mystical thinking. I mean, it's like, especially with stupid 19 stuff where people just aren't even using any kind of rationality anymore.
Right.
It's very
No.
and people have always been irrational. I'm irrational. I think we all are to a certain extent. We just have certain things, but in this last year, there was just a magical thinking. You got to cover this up, and then you're safe. Well, now we can wear it outside.
Yeah, it's a
Right.
talisman.
And then, yeah, basically. So I think we are now, and I wouldn't even know how to explain the two different periods between like a magical and material. But those are the cycles I keep seeing reoccurring every time I keep going. Because then you had like the fall of Rome, like that was a pretty materialistic period. And then I wouldn't even say it was a fall. It was just kind of a replacement of power structures in a way, based on what I've gathered. Just like they called it a republic, but it wasn't a republic. It was just, fiefdom or whatever, theocracy. So I'm going all over the place.
No, it's okay.
No,
It's okay.
that's fine.
So to apply what I was talking about earlier, it sounds like if there are 4 repeating patterns, then you can probably attribute, and you were getting close to it because materialism would be earth, and one of the magical areas would either be air or fire. So you're going to have, my guess, just based on the patterns I know, is because the Egyptians used the 4 powers of the Sphinx, and it was eventually adopted by modern Hermeticism. So you have to know, to dare, to know, to dare, to know, to dare. I'm forgetting one. To know, to dare, to. So water. That's.
Nico, look it up in one of them books.
No, it's to know, to will, to dare, and to keep silent. And silence is the earth one. So to me, it would seem that those patterns would probably fall into those, because if it's a 4 pattern, it more than likely is based on tetragrammaton, which is the name of God. And so to me, more than likely you can apply intellect, emotion, your spirit, and your being or your physicalness to those. Would that apply from what you've seen?
Yeah, that would. That actually lines up pretty. I'm trying to visualize it now.
Yeah.
So
You said to know, to will, to dare, and to
keep silent.
Okay.
What's funny is I could remember it in Latin, but I was having problems remembering it in
Man, you
English.
should have just said it in Latin. I could have translated it for you.
Right.
I speak Spanish and French,
Right on.
and
Yeah.
I try to speak English.
Yeah, it's Tecere, Aldere, Wele, and Skire. So
don't even know what you said, but yes.
Really,
You
that
learn
sounds
something
almost
new
like
every day.
smelling in Spanish.
it's to will.
Oh, okay. Well, that's So maybe I wouldn't have been able to translate it because like oler is to smell, and then like huele is like the I don't know, one of the conjugations, or it's a few of the conjugations actually. But anyway,
So I'm going to show this. I hope so. I am all about doing that. That would be awesome.
yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. So Sketch also said earlier that don't click on another one, Marcus.
Sorry, it was an accident.
Yeah. No, he said meme magic is pretty powerful. I think that's true. Like I think it's a way of like these like little mini spells of like dropping enlightenment into someone's head. Like it cuts through so many different barriers because it gets right to like I think like wit combined with like the this introduction of like through like a cultural norm and the cultural understanding. Like you know how when you like memes, what makes memes so effective, and like especially like the visual memes that we have now. I mean, meme is like a thing that goes back for a long time before there were like these little pictures that we share with each other. But it's the telling a joke about The Office to someone who's watched The Office 3 times. The whole season, the whole series 3 times. You get it on a different level, and you can just say, "What? Who is that? Damn, Nico." No, I'm just blaming Nico right out of the gate, whether it's him or not.
Why is it got to be Nico?
Because he's the one who looked to the side and muted his mic. but no, like so you can just say something about you can just say that's what she said or something like that, and it means everybody knows what you're talking about
just immediately,
you know. Or somebody can say, you know, you can have the Dwight, you know, type of shit, you know, like false, you know, bears beats, but you know, like Battlestar Galactica, that kind of stuff, and somebody knows exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
And that sort of stuff, you can have a picture that immediately cuts through so much stuff and avoids all this necessity for all this extra explanation.
There's an example.
Oh, okay.
You guys have no idea what that means.
I don't know what that means. No, exactly. I don't know what that means, but you could probably like say something on there, one word on there to somebody who like studies that shit like you do, and they would be like all over it. Stop removing the thing. Okay.
Sorry. I'm not as good at this as you are.
That's all right. Well, when I'm done with my sushi, I'll be able to direct more. But no, so I think it's really important to have that to try to harness it as best as we can. Those of us who are actually trying to seek the truth and spread the truth to people, because it is a tremendous tool that we have in our arsenal. That really, and the other thing is too, I don't know if you saw, but there was, where did this come up? This is on some show somewhere. Anyway, apparently like the FBI reported like in the 90s that they were having a hard time relating to like anarchists. Oh, it was when Olivia, I think it was when Olivia was on with Magnus Penvidia, because there are all these like inside jokes.
Oh yeah.
They can't, they're like it's like the how are you doing, fellow kids, or whatever, you know, like that. What's that fucking thing with
Steve Buscemi?
Steve Buscemi,
like, he has a skateboard and stuff.
Hello, fellow kids. It's that sort, like they could see the ops coming a mile away because they had like this whole meme culture within their circles that like you had to know like all these little insight, and it came off wrong if it didn't land right, you know, like it was. So very similarly, like the meme culture has a way of like cutting through a lot of that stuff if it's done properly to make it to where we can actually say stuff without saying it explicitly in a way that like gets you caught up in all the netting of the feds and stuff.
Yeah, and that's, I think, how people need to start learning how to communicate on Twitter and other platforms if you want to stick around on these platforms, because they are useful.
Right.
And YouTube and everything else. You have to find a way to speak around it. It's like Stupid 19.
Yeah.
Right. I put it in my newsletter every day.
Right.
So,
Ken, what time period is America reflecting right now?
That's a good one. That's where I was going to ask him.
It's a consolidation period. So it's kind of reflecting basically whenever Rome dropped the Republic title. A lot of with that. Then there's so many other similarities with various revolutionary periods.
Yeah.
So there's like, it's like a mix of a lot of things, but I would say like what's like the Peloponnesian War period. Seems like that, where just a lot of consolidation of power. The oligarchs are becoming just as powerful as countries and everything else. So
yeah, it reminds me, frankly, I read a book on what was his name? Russia magician. I can't think of his name right now. I can't believe I can't remember his name. Shot, stabbed, drowned. I can't think of it.
They did his ass dirty.
Right. Yes.
Rasputin would not die.
Yeah, I read a book on. Yeah, he wouldn't die. They anyway. It reminds me a lot of what I read in the book on Rasputin that I read. The different parallels between what happened in the fall of Russia.
Mhm.
I see happening around us all over the place. And it's not that what happened in Russia is exactly what's happening here. I think it's slightly different. But I see a lot of similarities. The people reacting to corruption and overreacting to corruption and moving in the opposite direction instead of embracing freedom, going for more control,
Right.
those kinds of things. So I am with you. I think that it is at least repetitive, and I like the idea of a consolidation, because I definitely see that too. They're definitely consolidating their power for sure.
Yeah, and because that's the only reason I would say it's like a combination of a lot of things. It's its own thing, anyways, because
Right.
just human, was it
Right.
like history doesn't repeat, but human behavior does.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of similar behavior patterns that are going with people that are being directed in certain directions and everything else. So
For me,
yeah,
I've heard it described as a spiral, not a circle.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, that's pretty good actually.
Going upward or downward? Because it seems like if you're thinking like in terms of power dynamics, spiraling consolidation. I don't know. It just seems to
So
me
it'd be
like
like starting and then going.
yeah, that it. I think just to me, it seems like we have gone from different like remote consolidations
Mhm.
all over the world and ramping more and more into like this final point at the top of that spiral that is full consolidated power in the hands of a very small group at the top over the entire planet.
Yeah, it's about how it is right now. So
There's good news, though.
Yeah.
One of the things I like to look into when following these kinds of patterns is the good guys generally win. That sucks because it's usually a hard fought battle. But and you can say, well, but the Romans sucked. Yeah, but they didn't suck as bad as the people before them. And over time, when we're talking about taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, certainly shit sucks sometimes. The United States is not the best damn government that could ever be thought of. No government would be. But it's a hell of a lot better than the monarchies that they had at the time. So is it, for me, I find hope in that, kind of back to Locke, in the idea that no one thwarts natural law for long. And we are progressing, we are evolving to something. And I guess find hope in that yes, I think that they're overreaching and there will be a reaction for that.
Oh yeah. And personally, I've noticed that because I've became more attracted to natural laws over the past 2 years, and especially the last year. I started praying again and reading scripture. I've even looked into like Sufism, which is like the mystical side of Islam, which is very, very interesting. And that's just recently, but
as natural laws,
they basically how do I put this into words? Basically the laws that if they're ever broken, then the amount of order is being taken over by the chaos, which will eventually go back into some form of order, but they have to be kind of working together. And if man starts breaking outside of this kind of natural law, then that's usually when a lot of craziness happens. Trying to simplify, but also I don't even know how to explain.
Yeah.
Like a splitting of an atom sort of thing, almost, where you have like
I just call that polarity.
or within maybe just within a molecule instead of necessarily splitting the atom, but just having like you've got your nucleus and you have your proton and electron just kind of like doing the dance. So just that's just. Well, I want to ask you this though. Wanted to kind of push back on what Marcus said about the what we have being better than some of the monarchies. not because I necessarily disagree, but I just want to play devil's advocate and see what Ken thinks about this, is what we have now, where you have this supposed structure that we are, it's by, for, and of the people, right? And it's this constitutional thing that like you can't do certain things, and it's all it's all disallowed and blah blah blah, whatever. Anyway, is that and people's undying devotion to that a better setup than a monarchy where people were in a lot of cases like remote from where the throne was, and the control over that was very, very loose, if at all. And a lot of them really just kind of made fun of the monarch as long as he wasn't around, and it had become like a, we do the same sort of thing, but like then you get your shit banned or you get thrown, you get thrown in jail or whatever. It's, I just wonder if we aren't in a slightly worse place than if there was if there was just a king in Washington, D.C., and then like everybody was like, nah, man, you stay away from here. Don't because it's so distant. But like we have like all of these people in these local governments and then state governments and everything that are like in lockstep with that shit. Because all these mandates and everything that came down, there were very few places in the country you could go that weren't in lockstep with that shit. And then back to the magical mysticism of all this stuff. Like Louisiana just lifted their mandate, and it's like a month and a half after Texas lifted theirs. And the Louisiana governor was criticizing the Texas governor for doing it when it happened and said we were going to keep the mask mandate. And then based on, as far as I know, nothing has changed. There's no big data breakthrough that is like, oh, now it's okay to not wear masks everywhere. Like, no, it's just like arbitrary. The political pressure got to be too much.
Just on, off, on, off.
Exactly. So I don't know. Tell me what you think about that, about the monarchy versus what we have here set up.
Me or Marcus?
You.
I guess I'm the guest.
You.
Okay.
Yeah. You. I'm asking you because Marcus already made his point.
For sure.
I mean, there is something to be said with that, because with a monarchy, they have to maintain a certain amount of order and keep the people happy, or else they're overthrown because there are more people, than the monarch and the people trying to maintain the order. So if they're not keeping, the lower tier people, even the middle tier type people, in terms of economic class and everything, then they won't last long. That's how all the monarchies got basically toppled over the last 300, 400 years. I think there was some other stuff thrown in there as well, where some countries that didn't have a monarchy were basically overthrowing them as well. But there's something to be said with that. I didn't live during those periods, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to tell
because you have like a Disney.
Right.
You have like a Disney-fied version or view of history through most lenses, unless you have like personal accounts that go into darker details that give you the lived experience. So that's
right.
It's like with Rome. You watch a movie and it's like, oh, this is so nice. Like it looks, the movie Troy with Brad Pitt, and like everything's just so picturesque. But then you're like, yeah, there's like shit in the street.
I was gonna say there's shitting in the dirt where they were, and then walking in it, and
Well, and I think that some of the differences that we're talking about are actually technology.
Oh yeah.
Like imagine what, with the technology we have now, the Emperor of Rome could have done then.
That's basically where I think we're heading. So for the short term, at least.
Yeah. But there's always been that give and take with the technology and our control of it versus the powers that be and their control of it. So there's like this tug of war between what we can do with the technology and what we can do to help set ourselves free with it, and then what they can do with it to continue to enslave us. At the same time, there's that tug of war with those things.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to do this 10 years ago.
Right.
And there's so many people that have made so much money in the past year. who maybe were making 20 grand a year or something like that, just because the technology is there and they're actually doing good things, providing good services to people all over the world, or they can get a job in Africa, or someone in Africa can have a job in the United States, and it's just like that, and they can provide for their family and everything else. So there are these pros to this situation if people look at it that way, but there are, drawbacks as well, obviously.
Right.
I kind of tend to go with Rothbard, and I think that largely what we're dealing with is people's willingness to see through the illusion.
Yeah.
And I think that, yes, we have, and again, I guess for me, I'm an optimist, and for me, I see the silver lining. Yes, there are people that are just absolutely enslaving themselves, throwing on masks and chaining themselves to this and that and the other thing. That's true. But larger numbers than ever are defying the government right now.
Yeah. I'm wondering sometimes if that's not the point. And I'm not pessimistic, because I'm actually very optimistic, but I'm just trying to view it from a thing, so I know how to position myself and tell my friends and family how to do things.
Right.
I do think some of this stuff is actually being done intentionally to where they want it to break up, so they can actually have more centralized type of situation, which would be, that's the interesting part, because there's just like an openness where they're trying to start a fire on both sides, or all around the whole country, and then all around the world, where they're intentionally dividing people and pitting them against each other, the ones who are the most easily manipulated.
Yeah.
And then you have like the anarchists who are just kind of looking around like, where do I need to go next? I'm trying to figure out how to survive.
Right, exactly. Well, and
So,
when Scott Creighton came on and talked with us, he's brought up a good point about all this stuff. And if you, and I didn't really think about this until just now when you were saying that he talks about the difference between like this government and then like privatizing everything to where it like becomes this corporatist sort of stuff where we already kind of are, but then just like handing it over to Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey and all these people who are like just gobbling up like different companies left and right. Jack Dorsey just bought Spotify, and like it's just like, I mean, not Spotify, Tidal. So like you do all these different things that if you look back at like the last several decades, and there has been this dichotomy, rich to feed the poor, or no, private corporations are the whole reason that we're free, and that's why America is great. And then when you have that as your dichotomy, now, like you said, you bust this thing up, and then it's just like, well, now instead of like these different states, you're going to have Arkansas is going to be Walmart. Yeah.
Right.
and Seattle is going to be, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like there's going to be like just these different, they've already done it with like the stadiums, Candlestick Park used to be Candlestick Park, and Fenway used to be Fenway, and all this stuff. Now Wrigley was always Wrigley, and it was like the first officially sponsored stadium, but anyway, but it's still Wrigley, even though the Wrigleys don't own the Cubs or the field anymore. But all of these other stadiums are like, it's a Safeco Field, or it's the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, and all. Like you're already starting to see this sort of like corporatist balkanization of sports teams and all that. And I can see that going where like, you're going to go to Louisiana, brought to you by Mercedes. you know what I mean? So like it is interesting that you bring that up.
Well, I've heard like some libertarians talk about how they would like to have like an Amazon bridge instead of the Cuomo bridge or something like that. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a good trade. Like, I don't like one, but I don't like the other, and I don't think that would be a smart idea. But it would be like the city would still own it. Amazon would just have the sponsorship. And I don't know. Both of them seem kind of dystopian in a way.
Well, and the key is where did the money that Amazon has come from? You know, is it just that Jeff Bezos had a garage?
He's a magician.
He had some books, and he started selling them online, and then poof, you know, now he runs the whole world and like can drop ship your food in next day air. And there's like, I was driving down the road the other day. I live in Baton Rouge. It's not that big of a city. There were 15 Amazon trucks on one stretch of road that I was driving. Like 2 were at a gas station over here, 3 were turned at a red light over here, getting ready to get on, and then the other ones were like going either with me or against me on the 4-lane road. It was insane. And I was just like, oh, okay, so that's who owns this part of the world.
Have you guys seen that? It was like a video where someone it was like an Amazon blimp or something like that, and then a bunch of drones just come from under it. It's like Amazon packages, and they're just flying out.
Oh, that's frightening.
That's
scary.
Like I think it was cool if that had come like organically in like a more anarchistic type of setup.
Yeah.
But when so much of how they got where they are has been through the theft and the control structure
Monopoly.
and the protection racket.
Yeah.
That is government.
Got direct money from the government.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And you know, last week when I did the Anarchy Forum there, I was on with Magnus. One of the things we talked about is that we haven't had free market. What we're talking about is not. Chad started this off with that it is a false dichotomy, and it is a false dichotomy. What it says to me, and this is almost certainly true of the American people, that they do not understand property rights. They do not understand that that the reason that Amazon might get a bridge, for instance, is because Amazon either A, built the bridge or bought the bridge, and I don't think there's anything wrong with, like, for instance, if I own the bridge and I want to sell advertising rights to Amazon, I don't think there's anything wrong with me selling those rights to Amazon because it would be my bridge. But when you start dealing with government and you start dealing with them stealing your money, like Chad said, to fund it, that's not property rights. We're not dealing with you being able to say what can or cannot happen to a bridge. Now, you can make an argument in kind of a minarchist kind of way where you could have direct democracy, and if they owned a bridge in a certain borough in New York and everybody voted for it, you know, that might be a little closer. But the reality is we don't live in that kind of reality.
No, not at all. It's just, it hasn't been that way. So I understand that. That would actually be an interesting experiment to try. So
Yeah, it would be an interesting. Freedom would be fun to try.
That shit, right? This is the reason for this podcast. It's also like the saddest thing that we have to say on this podcast is like, man, freedom would be so cool if we got to
just give us a taste of it.
Yeah, can we have a taste? But I was thinking about this whole thing with like the naming of the stadiums and everything. So here's what happens. They'll put forth some initiative where they want to make a new stadium for a professional sports franchise, and they will like ram it through the state legislature. Yeah, and you have to pay for it.
Yeah,
right. and then they'll give it to the professional sports franchise, and then the professional sports franchise will sell the naming rights to a corporation.
Yeah,
and then they get the money. They don't give you you your money back. Nope. It's just like, this is the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. By the way,
when do you ever get your money back?
No, you don't. Even the stimulus check is
that's a scam.
It's basically like, hey, look, we gave you $1,400. By the way, we will need $6,000 over the next 10 years from you. Thank you very much.
Right.
I did the math on it. That's how much that fucking COVID relief.
Yeah, they did that that was Oakland. That was the reason Oakland, the Raiders left. It's because the city didn't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So you talked about anarchy. Tell us about, where's your philosophy at, man?
Oof. Well, I started off as basically a leftist a long time ago. I was, whenever I had like an inkling of like a political philosophy, which is interesting because I was like 18. I kind of got into Ron Paul, and then I just took a hard left veer, and then so I started getting into leftism. But and I read. I'm not gonna say I read a lot to where I can just spout a bunch of Marx because, but like Engels and then a lot of what's his name? The guy Manufactured Consent.
I don't know.
He's like really old now. Anyway, so I went that way, but then there's a certain point where it just kind of stopped making sense, and I would hear other arguments, and I'm like, well, I'm not on the right, I'm not on the left, so I just kind of it's like there's a line here, and I went here, and then I just kind of like went down here and disappeared for a while, and I was just reading a bunch, and now I would say, I don't know. I called myself a libertarian for a while, and then I called myself an anarchist, and now I'm just like, I'm just observing, and I'm trying to document everything and teach people what I can teach them and whatever, and I'll support people I like and agree with on certain things, but when it comes down to it, I just want to be productive with my time, and some of that involves politics, some of it involves politics, and if it doesn't, then that's fine too. But I would align more with libertarians, obviously, at this point, just philosophically, but that's the people that would probably be the most willing to talk to me.
Well, and at the end of the day, come on, people like to pretend like there's these other choices. There are two choices. It is either you are a libertarian, you believe in liberty, and that's how a society should be founded, or you believe that in authoritarianism, and you believe that there should be an authority in charge of everything. And that's it. Somebody, when I said that, frankly, on Twitter, they were like, I choose something else. I'm like, name it. Name that. I would like to hear what is not either a libertarian or an authoritarian. Okay,
go ahead. Let's see it.
It's kind of like the inverse of, have you ever heard of like libertarian socialists, where they actually want to like use the state to create their like libertarian socialist paradise? I forgot what the ends of the means is, but or basically using this structure and then to create a libertarian system.
Sure.
But you have to basically do it over 100-year period.
Right.
And so you would have to use the state, and you would enforce certain things. I'm not saying that's what I believe, but that's an interesting one that has been coming up a lot.
But at the same time, doesn't that
you still get the ring of power, though?
Right. That's what I'm saying. There's still authority there.
Yeah. But I think people crave it. That's the thing. I think there's a lot of people who just want they want protection. They want security. They don't want to think about how things are managed. They just want to find a place for them to fit into that system.
Sure. And the difference between an authoritarian and libertarian is we'd like to see them get that.
Yeah.
Who was it that you? It was one of the clips that you played of. I think it was Jacob Hornberger on one of those episodes where where he was talking about how like, all right, what if somebody said, vote for me and I'll set you all free, and they're like, okay, that's great, like you'll just be like, I'll be the most benevolent dictator. I won't do anything to you or anything like that. Like, I just have to have one power, and my power is going to be, I'm going to keep you safe. And it was just like, and then that's like it's just like, well, now it's like there's all these different things that you can open Pandora's box when you get I get to keep you safe power, because I can take all your freedoms away because I'm keeping you safe. And you told me that was my one goal, was to keep you safe. And so I'm doing my job that you gave me. By the way, I was right. It was Noam Chomsky. And Ed Herman is the other. I did not know who Ed Herman was, but I knew Noam Chomsky, but who wrote Manufacturing Consent. But what you said, you were saying something, Nico? Sorry.
Oh no, I was just agreeing.
So at the end of the day, I think that what we need to focus more on, you do all the time, and that is focus on learning from history in order to not repeat it. And do you think that that's possible?
I don't know.
Is history
really
just
have no
repeating
idea.
itself regardless, and we just have to be in the right position to deal with the repetition?
That's I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at this point, but you know, maybe 3 years from now I'll have a slightly different take, but
We hope so. We hope everybody does.
if history is somewhat close to what is described as, then this pattern seems like it's kind of there for a while until there's a conclusion, I guess, and whatever that is, I don't know. Yeah, I've gathered so much information in the last year that unless I write it down and just have it like ready to go, I'm just pulling, and it's like I don't even know what the hell I'm pulling at this point. It's so you guys ask me a question, I'm just like, maybe it's here. I don't know.
No, that's great though. I like because I've actually enjoyed, allowing you the time to like think about it, and then like hearing what comes out of that thought, because it's been like you've broken some ground that I don't think we've touched on with anybody on this show, and that's been really cool. Well, so where do we've talked about kind of where things have been and how that's been kind of messed with, and then where things really have been, and then kind of like what phase we're in right now. What do you think things look like for like our children?
Yeah, that's actually something I've been thinking about a lot lately, because I would like to have kids, and especially with the funniness with the medicines going around. So that's what I'm actually trying to work towards, is to put myself in a position to where I can help other people create something. So in 80 years, it's not hell and like a Dark City Matrix type of dystopia.
Right.
That's all I'm really worried about right now. But also making money, but that's just kind of means to an end at that point. Like you have to make money. And yeah, that's basically where I'm at. I don't know. It seems bad if there aren't people that are willing to build that future. And if that's why it's like I want to focus on current events, because you have to know where to put yourself. But just dedicating so much time and energy into the immediate or the next 3 months, I don't know how valuable that is, because look at China. They do a 50-year project, 100-year project, and they get, even though it's not as peaceful and dominant there, based on what I've gathered, it's actually a lot of chaos there. Sometimes they just don't report on it. Like there's been a lot of protests within China that nothing comes up in the news about, because they don't want any of that getting out. And it's one of those, I think it would actually be more likely to go into a state of chaos than the United States would be, because there's still like an independence mentality in the United States, whereas there, I think that would actually kind of fall into each other. But even though they do a 50-year plan and they built this infrastructure, we're at like, every 2-year cycle. So it's like, how are we going to create a future if you guys are only focused on this little right here?
Well,
so yeah,
I think the answer comes back to, again, the free market. The less you control something, the more likely, and this is all Adam Smith, it really comes down to the more you diversify what people are able to do, you let them be little innovators themselves, each person. And the more you have people doing that, sure, you're going to have the people that are lemmings or on Twitter posting about cats. I get it. Those people are going to exist. Right, for sure. You do. Somebody has to work at McDonald's. Let's just be clear. That we need those people. Those people are important. And I mean that. I'm not trying to belittle them. The people, and I'm not also trying to shit on people that work at McDonald's. I've worked at McDonald's. And, I'm not in a job that I adore now.
Loser.
I know, and I'm talking about the people that they don't want to do nothing but work at McDonald's.
Right.
And we need those people because they're going to be there. But that's the point. We need those people specializing in being really damn good at flipping a burger over and doing the things that they do.
They're not always
I don't
great.
know. I was gonna say, have
Right.
you
They're
been to
not always
McDonald's?
great.
I don't eat McDonald's, just to be clear.
Before
run
we
up in
get
that
too far
joint
off, I
sometimes,
got
man.
to pull this up before the chat. It disappears in the chat. So I wore this specifically for Ken's appearance.
Nice.
Yes.
That quote at the
beautiful.
bottom. That quote at the
Disgusting
bottom.
at the same time.
Yeah, I know, right? That quote at the bottom from Sketch is on point for what
Yeah,
we're
for
talking
sure.
about here.
Sketch has been on fire today.
Yeah,
I know, he
Sketch
has, too.
Sketch is killing it.
But-
Thank y'all, everybody in the chat. By the way, it's I've been
sure.
watching. I haven't put a whole bunch of them on there. We haven't because I've been trying to focus on Ken and his perspective here. But we appreciate what y'all been spitting down in the chat. So
Sure, but my point, to return to my point,
Yeah,
the more we free people up to do whatever the hell they're going to do, the better. And obviously, government is not in the business of doing that. And this isn't the anarchist part of me railing against the government.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that even if you have, for instance, one of the greatest growths in the United States was after the Civil War and before the 1900s. And the reason was because largely this country was mostly free market, lots of people in the Old West, kind of expansion and all that stuff. So a lot of people not under the control of a government were, or a corporation or anybody else, was able to come up with ideas and share. And so I one of the things that I think is the future is if we learn anything from blockchain is that the decentralization is certainly the way forward for any technology. It's certainly the way forward for society. And the more we can move in that direction, I think we can get out of those patterns that you're talking about, because I don't subscribe that they're a prison. I buy that they repeat each other, and I get that, and there's probably like a spiritual significance to that. But I also think they grow. It's why it's a spiral. Crowley talks about, when he's talking about the evolution of man in the Book of the Law, he talks about that there are basically, and then this is actually the introduction, but he talks about 4 different ages, one of them being he uses Egyptian theology to show it. The first age, or the Aeon, is the Aeon of Isis, where things are mostly mother-based. They tend to be agrarian, those kinds of things. Then you move into the age of Osiris. The age of Osiris becomes about sacrifice, learning the lessons of sacrifice that you learn from the mother. Now you have Osiris dying for your sins, which is another idea that comes out through Jesus, through Krishna, through any of the dying gods. But that pattern builds on itself because you needed to know what you had to lose from Isis in Osiris. And then he believed that we are going into the age of Horus, or the crowned and conquering child, who was the child of Osiris and Isis. And he believed that that would culminate in is taking those 2 lessons, the fact that we are part of this world, that we are part of the nature, and from Isis you get that, and also the need for hard work and those kinds of things. And you put those ideas that we learned from Osiris together with that, so that you have the intellect being able to take action on that. And so that in Crowley's worldview, that's where we're at now. And what he believed we were working towards is ultimate balance. It's what he called Ma'at, or the Egyptian god of balance. And once we get all of those 3 powers, because now you're looking at the feminine power, the masculine power, and then the combination of the 2, which is a separate thing, then you have balance. And now there's good news and bad news if that pattern is correct, and that is that we will come out of this with balance, that we will get to a balance. The bad news is that Crowley believed that the cycle of Horus started in 1904, and these tend to last 2,000 years.
fuck you,
Got
Marcus.
nothing but time, man. Got nothing but time. Do I get to reincarnate along the way at least?
Crowley believes so. What's funny is, of the things that Crowley kept from traditional religion, reincarnation was one of them.
Yeah.
So So what I'm saying is, I believe then, the Buddhists talk about samsara, which is the wheel of illusion, and I believe we are going to break that wheel. And I don't mean like me. I don't know if that my generation will do that, but I believe that it is possible to break outside of the wheel of karma and to find ourselves deified, to find ourselves in a place where we are at a higher vibration. And how we do that, and this can be applied to whether you're talking culturally or whether you're talking politically or scientifically or anything. How we get there is by putting faith back in the individual, allowing that individual to build on his own, way, and get there through compassionate means by working together. Crowley says that if you're doing your will, then nobody will interfere with you because you're doing your will and they're doing their will, and your will isn't to be opposed.
What do you think, Ken? Marcus does this every now and then, where he just like goes deep on this stuff and it's like, man, your recall of this shit is like
that's
amazing.
That's so impressive. I don't have any recall of so much stuff I've learned, so I haven't practiced it. So it's just that muscle memory has not been developed. So I don't have any of that. So yeah, that's very good. Well, I don't know what to say to it though, but
I sure as hell don't either. I just was hoping that maybe you'd be able to drop something on there.
Sorry, this is just who I am. I just dive deep. It is.
Well, so do we want to attempt to
indoctrinate,
get drunk real quick on the on the swirly twirly. Here we go. You are entering the Aquarian Anarchy indoctrination chamber. I hope you don't have any problems with seizures or anything like that, because that we probably
not going to catch me on the ground one day.
Yeah, I know, right? So, I will get things started. And you talked about bridges before. Who should make bridges?
The people in that community.
The bridge making community.
Yeah, the people who build bridges in that community should build a bridge in that community. And the people that live in that space should build it. That's about it. I mean, in the most simplified form, yeah. Mm-hmm. They find the best bridge builders and figure out if all the people within that space that they've decided to call home. But yeah, that's an idealistic, in my mind at least, my perfect scenario.
Yeah, that was my take on that. That was my I don't know, my riff off of the roads question.
Yeah.
So my question would be, who would you put in place dealing with somebody who decided to blow up the bridge?
Who would I put in?
Like, how would you orchestrate with dealing with somebody and trying to find out who blew up the bridge and other things for that matter?
Damn, Nico got to make it destructive already. Shit.
Yeah.
All right. I like the way you think, though, Nico. It's good stuff.
I don't know. We have cameras around the bridge. Figure out, or those blow up too.
I mean,
I think he's talking about who.
So.
Oh, like how do you punish? Like if you found the person, what would you do to him and everything
else?
I don't know if they blew up a bridge.
It's your only bridge.
I mean, the only thing I can think of, and you would imprison them, I would assume, in some form or fashion, or some form of way for them to repay what they destroyed in their lifetime, because that's, it's harming. It could potentially harm people, especially if they're on the bridge and they blow up the bridge. So if they killed people, Yeah. So, yeah, they would have some form of punishment. They wouldn't just be able to get away with it. So whatever that society decides is a proper form of punishment. I'm not good at coming up with that.
I think you hit on it. You hit on a better term for it, and that was like the restorative justice rather than thinking of it strictly on the punishment level. What do you think about that? Rather than punishment, thinking more of on the terms of trying to restore and make whole any victims.
Well, yeah, that's like rehabilitation is better than just imprisonment because most people can be rehabilitated in some form or fashion. They can actually go back and be productive members of society unless they did something that's just so wrong or taboo in that culture, because there are people who have done stuff like that, and it's like they will never be accepted in this society ever again if people know what they did. But say someone was a drug addict and they accidentally beat up somebody, well, you can actually rehabilitate that person. And if they're not too far gone, but obviously there's going to be exceptions. So if somebody blew up a bridge, then you could rehabilitate that person, but you also have to punish them in a way to where they can pay back society in a way. Yeah.
But in a way that gets the bridge the bridge built back, right?
Yeah.
In a way that gets the bridge built back, because that's the thing. Like what we're talking about here is the most important thing is the bridge. The property that was destroyed, and then obviously you can't. If any lives were lost, you can't bring the lives back. But what you can do is a form of restorative justice for the families and the loved ones of whoever was lost.
Yeah, and what Chad's hitting on is, Rothbard talked about this in Ethics of Liberty at length, in that instead of having a society based on punishment, which is what we currently have, for instance, in this society, how that works is person A blows up the bridge, you throw them in jail and leave them there forever, and then you charge the people that were the victims in that community for the bridge. And it shouldn't take very long to figure out that's not very just.
And then sell the naming rights to Mercedes.
Right. Right.
And then they make license plates in the prison that they're at for Mercedes.
Right. Right, for sure. But what Rothbard would postulate, and again, we're very generalizing using the bridge, is that what you would do is you would put that person to work. Now, this would assume that no one had died. Let's say nobody died. What you would do is then you would put that person to work until the bridge was built. And I'm not talking about they get, an 8-hour day, some breaks. No, they are working. You're going to get some sleep time. You might get about 6 hours, and you're going to
survive.
Right. You're going to sleep about 6 hours a day, and the rest of the time you're going to spend building a bridge with everybody else until that bridge is built, and you will have to make some kind of monetary restitution. Maybe that's for the rest of your life. No matter where you are, how much you make, you pay 60% of whatever your earnings are back to the community until they're made whole. Those are those are some of the things that he acknowledged. Now, the one thing so just to kind of go through that, I think you were going in that direction anyway. To kind of caveat off of that, what do you do with someone who has killed somebody? And this is a hard question.
Well, yeah, because my gut's just like, well, an eye for an eye. You kill somebody, you die. Pretty simple. Especially like if you killed a kid, then well, you're dead too. I'm sorry. Right. Like that's where my gut wants to go. But if I don't know, with the bridge and they killed 10 people or 10 families, it's a bridge, so there could be a lot of people in there.
Right.
I don't know. I really don't. That's why I wouldn't be good at this.
Something out there.
I'm not good at being judge, jury, and executioner. So
sure, and that's kind of the point, is that nobody is good at doing this. Nobody knows the answers, and I think sometimes for us, it's hard to say that. It's hard to say I don't know. My answer for, what if somebody kills somebody is, their life, whoever the family, just to make it easy, let's say there was one person, whoever that person that you killed's family is, their kids or their wife or whoever it is, closest kin, you now belong to them. You have forfeited your life. You have given up. I don't believe in slavery. I don't believe in it. But I do believe that if you have wronged somebody, you have to make them whole. So how do you do that? That kind of comes down to, all right, Mrs. So-and-so, this person killed your husband. How are you made whole? And maybe one person says, how I'm made whole is I need $4 million and whatever it is. And that works for them. It would not work for me. If you killed my wife, no amount of money would replace her. I would want to see you suffer. So my choices would be something like, getting ass raped by a monkey for 60 days or something like that.
Justice.
So, right.
Marcus, don't you know that's how AIDS started? No.
I know. And we can cross our fingers that the person who killed my wife gets AIDS from the monkey.
I was
right.
I just remember being a kid and people saying that that's how AIDS started. I was just like, that's weird. Why were these people anyway?
I wasn't gonna go down that ass raping monkey part, but
it seems like the logical conclusion at this point. So
I agree with you being handled by the family. I remember there was some story about a Native American tribe. I think you were talking about this, Marcus, and they somebody got killed from a different tribe. So instead of starting a war, they had that person who killed the guy from the tribe go over to the other tribe, and he was under their jurisdiction, and they were like, get out my face, nigga. But that's genuinely how I would perceive things going. Like if you kill somebody of the family member, the repercussion is going to deal with your biggest fear, in a sense, unless you're like psychotic and don't give a flying fuck about anything,
right?
Different, but yeah, in the general sense, in that idea.
By the way, Sketch Therapy is dropping some fire stuff in the chat about like how to handle all this stuff. Like when I said the thing about Mercedes, Sketch is like, well, if Mercedes could in good faith replace the bridge to earn some good to earn some goodwill with the like as a sponsorship, like, hey, look, I'll do this now. Everybody buy a Mercedes, that sort of thing.
Real capitalism.
And I remember, so you talked about like value for value and like not doing sponsor. I thought that was really, I hadn't really thought about it in the sense of sponsorship, because we've talked about like getting sponsors or something like that for this show and everything, but I actually kind of
changed my mind a little bit.
Oh, have you really? Okay.
It would be one of those things I would not be opposed to it, especially now because of how small businesses have been treated.
Right.
If they wanted to advertise my show,
no, for sure, that's a good
idea. I
idea.
would like to give them that exposure.
Right.
So that's one thing that's kind of changed my mind, but
you can go into that with an agreement though, like, hey, look, this is what this is going to be about. And so, if you're not cool with that, let's just stop right now. But let's not get into this. And then, 5 months from now, you're like, hey, I can't believe you said that. I'm pulling my sponsorship. It's like, wait, hold up, man. Like, but the having the people who appreciate what you're doing see that and say, okay, look, I realize that I can watch this show for free, but I like it enough that I'm willing to throw you $1 a month or $2 a month or $5 a month or whatever, or something like that, just to
shout
say,
out to the Patreons.
Like, shout out to our patrons. Go to our Patreon and donate one of those amounts, preferably the $5 or more dollar per month amount. But that way you are, in a sense, you're crowdfunded. And so if one person gets pissed off because you said something they didn't like and they stop, being a patron, then you lose like a couple of bucks or $5 a month or something like that. Whereas one person at Nike
gets some 21-year-old.
And what's funny about it is now all these companies, it's like they all have to think the same too.
Yep.
Because you can't just say like, no, like I don't give a fuck that they said that. That's not allowed. Like, what? You haven't said anything about the fact that this happened yet? Where's your statement on, whatever the
transgender rights?
Whatever, whatever, some, a shooting or whatever. Like, if you don't have I want to say this, like, we had Olivia Rondeau on last week in the middle of like the Floyd verdict and all the other stuff. We didn't talk about that shit at all. Like, I have enough respect for her that I was not going to make the whole show like a big, commentary on that particular current event just because she's a black political, influencer or whatever.
POC.
And all that stuff. Yeah. Well, but I'm just saying, like, it's one of those things where, and I didn't do, it wasn't intentional. Like, we're going to not talk about this on purpose. No, it was just like, no, we have all this other stuff we're going to talk about. And like, if that comes up, we'll talk about it, but I'm not going to like go out of my way to be like, so what did you think about the Floyd verdict? Because then we would have spent 45 minutes breaking down all the BS around that and everything, and it'd have gotten goofy. But anyway, that's
you made like an evergreen where you actually have somebody talking about
exactly
something. It's about them and everything else.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
It's cool.
But I think the like some of this stuff, it does definitely get more complex the bigger the thing gets when you talk about the bridge, and then there's people on the bridge and all that stuff. It does certainly get more complex. But I think whether it's stealing something from someone or harming them or killing someone or doing something that's much bigger, like the blowing up the bridge that Nico had to go there. But I like it because we were talking about building a bridge, and it was perfect. It gets more complex, but I think that where you start leads you to a trajectory that still leads to more peace and harmony and restoration than the system we have now, which I will bring an example of something small that happened to me. One year we got our Christmas tree. Normally my wife parks the van in the garage, closes the garage door behind her because she feels safer that way. And then she goes inside. She leaves her purse in her car. She would leave her purse in the van, and that way it was there when she needed to leave to go to teach in the morning. And so we went to get the Christmas tree on like a Saturday evening or whatever, or a Sunday evening. And obviously with the Christmas tree on top of the car, you can't pull into the garage. So we parked outside. I took the tree off and everything. Well, it's like 2:00 in the morning. We've already like put the tree up, and we've put lights and everything and all that stuff, made a big deal about it and everything. She wakes me up. She's like, "Hey, I think someone broke into my car and stole my purse. I can't find my phone." And I was like, "Oh, fuck." Well, naturally, she's used to not locking her van. She's used to leaving her purse in there and everything. So that's exactly what happened. Somebody just went around the neighborhood pulling on doors, and hers happened to be open. They stole her purse. Well, to make a long story short, this was like 10 years ago. So we called the cops. Cops came and dusted, and we told them like where the credit card had been used. They'd already used it a couple of times. And so they went and got like surveillance video and all this kind of stuff. They're trying to track people down. I called them back a week later to find out because I hadn't heard anything. I was like, "Hey, any news on like where my wife's purse is, where all the shit is and everything?" "We can't discuss this with you." I was like, "Motherfucker, it's my shit."
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is your purpose in life if the victim isn't even your interest? All you care about is the punishment. And so when you think about it like that's where it's something annoying. That small, which, we got her a new phone, like her, I immediately find my iPhone, erased her phone and made it to where, that shit was taken care of. We changed, passwords and all that stuff. All that stuff was taken care of. But something that small, we're not talking about blowing up a bridge and killing a bunch of people.
No.
Something that small, they won't even tell the victim how it's going and whether they found their shit or not, and like if they found the person and what they're going to do about it or anything like that. Like, we're not even involved anymore. All we are is and so like that was at an earlier time. I've changed my perspective on that stuff about like, who I'm going to call and all that sort of stuff. But my point is, when you start there, imagine the kind of fuckery that you get involved with when it gets as big as a bridge blowing up. Or God or God forbid, something that leads to a very, very important and necessary 20-year war.
Yeah, with those cops, it's like technically you pay their salary.
Yeah.
And they won't answer a question when there's
and that's the system we're working in, and one of the things again that Magnus brought up, and just so everyone knows, he is coming on here eventually, will be a wonderful guest. But one of the things that he brought up too is that what Chad's talking about is actually more than they usually do. Generally what they're looking at when they come into your house.
Sucks for you. Sorry you got broken into. Bye.
Right. Yeah. Thinking about like and I've gotten off topic, but thinking about, we have a common friend who has helped us some technical stuff named Michael. And what Magnus said was that they choose whether, and this is all in a Supreme Court decision, they choose what they enforce and what they don't enforce. They can choose to
look the other way
if they want to. They can choose to do something. A perfect example of that was our friend Michael's ex-girlfriend, who was a complete and total psycho, broke into his house and stole all his shit. I mean, everything, to the point where Michael went out and bought a TV because she had stole all his shit. She broke back into his house and took that TV, like broke in the second time. So
persistent.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Michael
I hope he didn't buy a TV for a while after that.
Right.
Yeah.
So Michael, he's an anarchist, and his first reaction was, I don't want to call the cops. But he was like, I don't really know what else to do because I can't go hunt the bitch down and do what I want to do. But
vigilante justice is not allowed.
Right.
Justice isn't allowed either.
Right. So he's like, okay, I'm going to call the cops. So the cops came and said, sorry, it's a domestic dispute. I can't do anything about it. What? Imagine had the roles been reversed, had he broke into her house. And so they chose not to do anything.
About that domestic dispute last week, didn't they?
Do what?
I said they did something about a domestic dispute last week, didn't they?
Which time?
I'm talking about the I can't remember Micaiah Bryant or whatever, the girl that was like stabbing the other girl and the cop came and shot her.
Yeah.
It's like
they did something then.
They do something about certain domestic disputes. I mean, I get it. Like that was somebody was about to get stabbed and it was that was a different. It's not somebody getting their TV stolen, but still, like it is bothersome that like you think about the things that you do get their engagement. If you think about it like Twitter, like certain tweets get engagement. Speeding is a tweet that will get you a lot of engagement. Getting your shit stolen from you, not so much.
They'll try more for someone that's just publicly intoxicated just because that'll be an easy thing to do.
Right.
I remember one of my buddies, he was 18 and was at college, and he was just walking around outside his dorm, and there's like a kind of small group of people, and they asked him for his ID, and he was dumb. And so he went back to his dorm and then got his ID and then walked back out, and the cop said, "You're under arrest, public intoxication." So they'll do stuff like that. And this is like a legit cop, not just a whatever campus police.
They'd be like, well, they didn't follow me. I guess I'll just leave the door closed now.
Well, yeah, that's what you should do. Just disappear. But he just walked all the way back. He's like, yes, sir, officer right here. And he's like, you're arrested. So they'll do that. And that's, case by case, different cop, yada, yada. But it's a state. They can just do that if they want. And then ignore stuff if they want to. And that's... Yeah, now you see why a lot of people are pissed right now.
Right. That's the ultimate, like, Jägermeister face palm right there. It's like, what were you thinking?
That was a $2,000 lesson or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah.
That hurts.
So, guys, I think we have an anarch. What do you think? I think we got an anarch.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
There, we are out. We're free. All right.
Nice. Where did I go? I don't know where I'm at.
Right.
Yeah, I would consider myself one overall if you want to go down, but I can kind of adapt to wherever I'm at because you know, survival instincts.
Sure.
So, like, I've worked in
Oh,
corporate
code switching.
sales. I'm not a corporate salesman, but I can.
Right.
So,
Well, I think the key here is that, and I'll steal your thunder, Marcus, because I know you're itching to explain the difference between like an anarchist and an anarch. But like we're just, this is just so an anarch is just like a self-ruled person. They rule themselves, and that's it.
Oh,
You are the
that actually just makes sense.
You are the king of your. What is it? What's the thing from Seinfeld? That you're the master of your domain. That's it. That's
right.
Yeah. See, now that's one of those memes I was talking about. Like everybody who watched Seinfeld knows which is
most people.
Yeah.
I only know no soup for you.
Oh, see, and that's one of those when somebody just goes no soup for you. If they know that you don't even have to explain anymore beyond that, and everybody just gets exactly what you're talking about. But no, the master of your domain was when they all had like a masturbation challenge, and you had to. You don't remember that? It was like you had to not do it. You had to not do it. They all put money in, and then like people were coming in, and Kramer comes in like early on. He's just like, I'm out. And he just throws his money on the table. That was it. He was done.
That's great.
He couldn't hold off. But yeah, master of your domain was like if you still hadn't done it yet, you were master of your domain. So anyway, so now that you're an anarch, you can't ever masturbate again. That's it. You're done.
Oops.
Well, I'm in the club now. I guess that's it.
Well, you're in good company. You just gotta handle it another way.
Just think about it.
One of those dream catches you.
One of those tantric deals where you just
I think it was
bring
like
it inside
Tao,
right?
like Taoist stuff, where they'll have like I forgot. There's like a
an
science to it or something
like an internal backwards orgasm or something like that.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
I'm telling you, dude, I'd be whipping it out at parties. If I could do that shit, if I could suck up some shit with my dick.
I don't think it works like that. I don't think
it doesn't. I know, that'd be great. What I can do, I'm gonna drink some Coke. Hold on.
God damn it. This show went down a fucking. I'm sorry, everybody. It's all my fault. I brought up the debt from Seinfeld, and I'm
okay with it.
You brought up Contra, dude. It's your fault.
See, this is what happens. This is why everybody's so afraid of anarchy, because this is what happens.
Anarchy, you're going to start drinking your own Pepsi with
it's not a straw. What are you, an elephant? No, that's funny. Wait. I clicked on the wrong one. Shit. Here we go. What are you?
Good.
Yeah. You ever seen an elephant with like a trunk like this long?
Right. That's great.
That's hilarious.
Oh shit, man.
So
this is fun.
Yeah. So Ken, it has been great having you. We're approaching our ending time, and I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything you would like to plug? I do have a couple of your links down below. I pulled them off your Twitter. I've got your Twitter link, and I've got your link of links. So your link tree.
Oh, okay.
And your website.
At Damned History, at Ken Theroux on Twitter. KenTheroux.com would be where you would find most of my stuff. Right now, I'm trying to slowly build a website. So if you go to at Damned History on Twitter or Instagram, then you can go. I have a Substack where I'm actually just logging as much news as I can just gather throughout the day, and then putting that out every morning at 6 a.m. Eastern time. Yeah. A lot of people actually came out and said that they really enjoy it. So
it comes out too early for me to see it come into my inbox. I'll say that much.
Oh, really?
When I wake up, it's already there.
Okay.
Morning read.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's good shit. It's I like the way that you kind of give like a little mini preface, but then it's just like right into the meat. It's with the links and everything. So.
I just feel like it helps people with their memory, because even if they don't look at everything, they can scan it. Mm-hmm. And then because things are happening so quickly right now, just warp speed, every day there's new chaos. I want to have a resource to where you don't have like a bunch of stuff on a different page. You just literally have a log
Yeah.
of everything
Yeah.
I thought was relevant, and then you can scan it, and then a week later you can look back like, what did happen on Monday? Okay, right here, and then that's it. And then I can add stuff along the way. That's
Mhm.
takes a little bit of time, but I feel like it's kind of important. So, and there's like daily event like podcasters. Like I got Monica Perez, the propaganda report. She actually, I sent it to her because I'm like, this is perfect for you guys because you guys already look at so much shit every single day.
Right.
That this would just help you double check maybe you didn't, or if there's something you missed or whatever. So
No, that's actually a good market too, like to be like a somewhat of an aggregator for.
oh yeah,
for
that's
those
the target market. That's who I really want to pay attention to it, but regular people too that aren't podcasters or whatever, I think would find it useful. So
yeah, I mean it's not necessarily like how we go about our stuff, but I think like when we don't have a guest, that's a good good way of kind of, you know, like you said, like, all right, what that I haven't been able to pay attention to has happened. You know what I mean? Because like I got so much shit going on. It's like I literally sometimes walk onto this show like still breathing heavy from walking up the stairs or something like that.
Yeah,
running in from wherever I was, and I'm like, you know, just trying to get on air in time. I did get to take a shower. That was good.
That's good. Man.
Yeah, it's always nice.
Those are love.
Yeah.
Those most definitely are love.
It's all right.
So what's is there anything else that you have like kind of planned for your immediate or distant future with this stuff that you see kind of coming down the horizon, or are you?
Well, I got another podcast that I'm slowly gonna work on. This you can actually follow it on Twitter if you want. We haven't really set up anything, but this girl and I are going to do a podcast. Her name's Zaynep, and we're going to do a podcast, and we're just kind of gonna let it fly. It's called Happy 6 Hours.
Okay.
So look up Happy 6 Hours podcast on Twitter. You can find that, and then that could actually keep you updated. And then my friend Giovanni and I are actually going to do. I don't know how long this one's going to last, but I red pilled him, so we're going to do a podcast explaining how I red pilled him and his process.
Okay.
Through it.
What's
so
the Happy 6 Hours? What does that mean? What is that? Is there a?
Well, we were talking about doing a podcast, and then one day we ended up talking for like 5 or 6 hours.
Oh, okay.
And she said, you know, we've been on the phone for 5 or 6 hours. I'm like, Happy 6 Hours. And she's like, that's a good podcast name. I'm like, yeah, it's not bad. And then just kind of that was it. It was easy. It's going to be good for like our SEO and everything. So
yeah, that's really cool. No, that actually is good. Like it's so crazy how like I don't know how that happened. How we got to the point where like putting numbers and shit and numbers of lists and shit in your name like somehow makes people want to read it more or makes it show up higher on Google's rankings or whatever. But it fucking does. Like I'm watching it with the stuff we're doing with John Core, where it's like the shit that has like 10 ways to do this is like, you know, it kicks the shit out of my shit. That's like, can you manipulate time? And it's like,
yeah, time travel for idiots.
Right,
and then it's
I mean, 5 ways to manipulate time.
10 ways to cook your toast.
Yeah, exactly. I should have just done that. I should have done that, Nico. I should have said 10 ways to manipulate time. I didn't have 10. I could have done like
gotcha, bitch. I only got one.
I could have done 4. No, my first title for that article was "Make Time Your Bitch," and then like it's a really like sappy sort of like love story about my relationship with time and like the people I love around it and everything. And so like when we talked about it, they were like Jonesy and Rita and Brian were like, y'all, I don't think this is a good title for what, like, it kind of flies in the face of what the article is actually about. I was like, I know, but like, I was not worried about that. I just wanted people to click on it and read it, and then they would get the other stuff. So I don't know. I kind of want to go back and change the title back to what it used to be. But anyway, that's interesting.
What does Brian always say? Just try it.
Yeah.
Try it.
Well, that's what he told me at first. He was like, I was just kind of like, yeah, fuck it, go for it. You know, do your thing. But it's it is what it is. So 2 podcasts. So you went from like 1 to like none, and then back to now you're gonna be doing 2. I will say this: doing a podcast with other people always helps.
Yes,
because then it's not all on you. It's not all on you.
And this girl, I mean, she's a writer, so she knows timetables and how to. No, we're doing this and this, like very structured.
Right.
I'm very ADHD, so all over the place. Yeah,
I don't blame you.
I have more
It's fun.
structure now, but yeah, or Gemini, if you want to say that's a part of it too. Like I'm just kind of I go with the flow
Wait.
a lot.
When were you
So
born?
yeah, Nico's a Gemini too. I was about to
Oh,
say.
I am.
yeah.
Yeah, I am a Gemini. Yeah.
What month and what day?
May 30th.
May 30th.
That's my sister's birthday.
Okay.
Oh, nice. I know a lot of people that birthday actually, like 6 people.
Hmm.
I don't know why it's so common, but
When are you again, Nico?
I'm June 20th.
June
I'm
something.
on the
Yeah.
cusp.
Okay.
oh
Yeah,
wow,
you're
yeah, you're right there.
Yeah, I'm
Almost a
confusing.
Cancer.
Thank you, God. Super confusing.
All right, guys. So
Marcus has to piss.
I
Marcus
do
has
have to piss.
That's what Marcus is telling us. Marcus has to piss really, really bad.
Marcus.
He's like, all right, goddamn it, shut the fuck up. I have to go piss." Marcus.
Hold on, wait. I got
Hey.
you, Marcus.
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
First
man.
time I've ever been live on anything, so
That
this
was-
is
yeah, this was great. This was
I
great.
really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Very
we
thankful.
appreciate you for coming on, and I hope you enjoyed yourself as much as we and our audience enjoyed this thing. And I thank everybody for coming. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, hit the Patreon. Go. All these links are in the description below.
Down
hit the- yeah, down there. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, that mirror
Smart.
camera is a bitch, ain't it? But yeah, all that stuff's down there. Join our Patreon. Join at the $5 level so you can get in the Anarch chat, or join at the $20 level so you can be like Saul G and be like a real gangster with it. Be an Anarch
Stop
god.
grifting, guys. Come on.
Yes, that's right. Stop grifting. Get in on the fun. And what's the other thing? Oh, go to the Teespring store. It's also in the description. You can buy some awesome merch. We have our Make Anarchy Great Again hoodies and T-shirts, and we have our Make America Rebel Again hoodies and T-shirts as well. So
I'm looking forward to getting myself the one with Murray Rothbard and Emma Goldman on it. It says "fuck the state."
fuck the
That
state.
is my that's
There you
my
go.
next
Simple
purchase.
to the point.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
Right.
I'm
But then,
ready for
my response was, but I don't want to.
You should have that on the back of your shirt.
you
Right,
should.
right,
No,
right.
that's a good
Yeah.
idea. That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah,
I can make
actually-
that happen. I'll do another one with
I like
another
it.
couple anarchists.
All right. With that, Marcus, send us home.
Stay free, my friends.